So we are on LinkedIn Live right now. We let people in. I'm gonna resume recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our July What's the Buzz monthly chat series. Giving it a few seconds for people to join us here on Zoom if you're here on Zoom, LinkedIn Live if you're here on LinkedIn Live, and YouTube Live if you're with us on YouTube. So you can watch and see on any of those platforms this wonderful monthly chat series that I try to bring some great educational, informational content to you every month, 20 minutes here. That's it, every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm your host, Amy Keenan, founder of the ISV Society, and so excited to bring you this monthly chat series, and so excited for my guest today. We have Blake Rockwell from Rockton Software talking all about pricing. So very important for especially distributors. Want to keep that pricing, want to be profitable at the same time. So very excited to have you, Blake, here to chat with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Amy. It's a pleasure to be on. Um,
Yeah. So I will, since it's only 20 minutes and this is being recorded, so anybody that does register for our series, you are in the series for the long haul. And to make sure you join us every month, and/or I make sure to get you this recording every month as well in an email. So stay tuned for that. We will have this is being recorded and will be sent to you as well. So with that, I am going to hand the reins over to Blake to take it away to chat with you.
Thank you. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Blake Rockwell. I'm with Rockton Software. I'm the sales guy here, and we're the pricing experts when it comes to you and your business. So let's talk today. I want to look at sort of the way I've seen many businesses are running their business to be profitable and talk about how maybe we could evolve to Rockton pricing management and think about doing these things simpler and easier. So anyone who spends way too much time in Excel trying to calculate spreadsheets and manage pricing, or really if you spend any time at all managing pricing, the more time you spend, the more relevant this will be for you. Be sure to tune in and pay attention. So as my first example to show you, let's keep it traditional pricing lists. This is how most people today do their businesses. And right now I have 10 records, for example. In my business, I am like Home Depot type hardware store, and I'm selling these tools. Got 10 tools here, okay. And that's 10 prices and 10 items to manage. Awesome. I want to apply a retail price list, 32% margin. So above retail, add 32% for my margin. Make sure we're making a profit of 32%. Cool. So I'm now managing a total of 20 records here, right? I have 10 records with my costs from my accounting system or ERP system. And over here, I have 10 more records for a total of 20 records. Okay, not so complicated, right? This is pretty simple and straightforward to manage. Here is how Rockton Pricing Management handles the exact same scenario. In this case, rather than managing 10 records, we are just managing one. Rather than taking 10 items and applying a 32% calculation, we've simply used our engine to write a rule. Apply a 32% margin, get based on cost. And that's it. And now, no matter how many items I have, whether that's 10, 100, 1,000, or a million, every single item will be sold 32% above its cost. And now I only have to manage one record in order to handle those million prices. So that's kind of how we could help from the keeping it simple side of things. Now, as soon as you add complexity, that's where things really get exponentially harder to manage. So let's take the exact same scenario. We want a 32% markup. Cool. But we have different discounts we offer to our customers. Some of our customers we might consider gold, silver, and bronze, for example. In this scenario, we are now handling 40 records. Instead of just the 10 output retail price records here, we are now manually managing 3 times that amount. So for every item, multiply it by 3, and that's how many records you're now managing manually in a spreadsheet. And should any of these costs change, you're going to have to go and update those numbers. So this is just not sustainable, as you can see, and many of you are working with this. It's going to get harder and harder as time goes on and as you add more complexity. Let's look at how Rockton Pricing Management would handle exactly the same scenario. Instead of having 40 records and manually managing these numbers, I am just managing 4 records. My base retail price is my one core record I'm working with this margin, this 32% margin. And this is applied to all items and customers. And then over here, I just manage my 3 customer level discounts and I apply what we have is filters. And so I basically say this only applies if the customer loyalty level equals gold. This one only applies if the loyalty level equals silver, and so on. And so we can just filter out these exceptions. If the customer doesn't fall into these, it still just applies to other calculations. And so no matter the complexity of what I have set up in the back end, even if this customer, maybe they can't buy these items, or maybe they're not on this, or they are, our engine will go behind the scenes and automatically calculate those prices based on these 4 rules and spit you out the right price at the right time. So now we don't have 40 records or 4 million records or whatever it is. I'm just managing 4 for what would otherwise be a pretty complicated way to manage pricing. Nice and simple here. Now going back to our original example with 40 records, let's say we want to provide free shipping. Not only do we have to calculate 8 shipping zones, so that's 8 times our 10 original price, that is 80 prices. But now we have to calculate all 8 zones times our 10 items, plus we have to recalculate all of those 3 times for our gold, silver, and bronze discounts. So in a simple business with only 10 items, we are now having 320 records to manage. And that's just to provide free shipping, do a markup, and that's really and have a customer discount. That's all we're doing. It's not too complicated, and this is really bread and butter and simple pricing as far as a business might be running today. Now here's how Rockton Pricing Management handles exactly the same scenario. Rather than managing 4 in the last one and going from, I think the last one was 80 to 320, we're going from 4 to 12. We are managing, of course, that core markup, our gold level discount and silver and bronze level discounts. And then over here, we have 8 shipping zones, right? And so why not just make a calculation? If shipping zone 1 is 4% and shipping zone 2 is 6%, just write the calculation and then set the filter. Who is UPS zone for? UPS zone 2 for? Is that for customers if region equals this region? Is it for these states? Whatever it is, we can build up a filter based on any piece of ERP or accounting data and create that filter to apply these calculations. And so now, instead of 320 records, we only have 12. And you kind of get the idea here about how, the more you add, it really gets more and more complicated. Say you have a sale, 320 goes to 640. You're just immediately doubling every bit of detail you have. Here's how we do a sale with Rockton Pricing Management. We keep exactly all those same core markups and discounts, and then we just have a sale. And the discount is only from March 1st to 31st. So we just put a filter on here, a date filter, that says on or after March 1st, on or before 31st, apply this. If it's not in that range, it simply ignores this calculation and does not apply it. So now we're up to 13 with Rockton instead of 640 over here. And that's just with a sale, customer level discounts, shipping zone, and the retail markup, of course. Now, this is the dreaded question that we might get is, should we customize? What if we're going to add even more? And please don't if you're managing pricing this way, but you can imagine how that 640 number is quickly going to get much worse. There's a better way. We don't need to build an in-house solution to do this. We can find an existing off-the-shelf solution that is going to be maintained. And so when our developer who codes our custom solution leaves 5 years down the road, 10 years, whenever it is, we're always going to need this complicated pricing, right? And so why not just have an off-the-shelf ISV solution that is going to be maintainable? We have a support team. We're going to be there for you to hold your hand through the whole process. Now let's take that 620 record or 640 record example from earlier. And let's say you want to do quantity breaks. So if you buy more than 10 units, you get a better price. If you buy 25 or more units, you get a better price, or 100 or more units. That's just 3 quantity breaks, and we're already up to 2,500 records here. Let's create chaos. It might look like this, and I bet you many
It makes your head hurt, Blake. Let me tell you.
This was actually the most fun slide to make.
I bet.
I'll have you know, but this is the least fun for our pricing managers, who this content might be relevant for. Now, what about now we have a New Jersey shipping tax. It's just enacted January 1st day. With the traditional way, we are now going to have to double our pricing. Whether that's 100 sheets or 12,000 prices, we are now going to have to double that. If it's 12,000, like earlier, it's now 24,000. With RPM, we just say add 3% if location is New Jersey. If location's not New Jersey, it just ignores it. If it is, it adds that. We can layer in these pricing adjustments. And so we don't have to manage 2 times the number of records just to have a 3% adjustment for our New Jersey customers. What about tariffs? This is one we're definitely seeing a lot more, is that today there's a 12 billion% tariff on Chinese stuff. And then tomorrow it's 15 billion, right? And then the next day, by Friday, it's all gone until the weekend, until Monday, it's back up to 20 billion, right? And so when that's happening, with the traditional way, we have all sorts of chaos. We're marking it up 60%. We might have to undo it all tomorrow. Who knows how many spreadsheets we're managing and who knows how many are even going to be relevant and how many might get deleted, right? Now, with Rockton pricing management, we just add a price adjustment. Add 60% if item is in class screwdriver or if country of origin is China. Any of these readable data elements associated with the item, we can throw into our engine and calculate a price off of. So in this situation, you'd probably want it to be both. That's another important thing with our price filters is it doesn't just have to be, oh, it's in the month of March or, oh, it was manufactured in China. It could be both. And so, oops, sorry, I skipped a slide there. So in this case, we just put a filter. If the class is screwdrivers, if the country of origin is China, add 60%. If tomorrow that tariff goes away, we just go to that individual adjustment and we click inactivate. And that's it. And then if it comes back, we just reactivate it. If it's 60 today and tomorrow it's 80, we have all that setup and filter set up. We just have to go into the math part and delete the 6 and replace it with an 8. So, 2 seconds of update versus multiplying your, if this is a third of your pricing, you're adding 30% more price sheets or records to manage, right? Another common one you might run into is say like a steel tax or on weight. So with a traditional pricing sheet, you'd probably have someone who's going to go into Excel and they're going to calculate all of this. They're going to rework a spreadsheet with item-specific weight of the metal. They're going to have to go in, add some calculations for some items, different amounts for certain ones, and then it's not going to be ordered by the amount of metal. It's going to be kind of just buried in this spreadsheet. And as you add more items and everything, it's going to be much more complicated to manage. With Rockton pricing management, we can use the metal weight in your accounting system. Whatever is stored in your ERP, we can take that, add a simple unit of measure formula. If it's a pound, apply this calculation. If it's an ounce, apply this calculation. If it's a pallet, apply this calculation based on the unit of measure and calculate a tax for everything. So now this item that has, 0.3 pounds of steel in it, and then this one has 0.5 pounds of steel, it just takes that steel calculation and multiplies it by that 0.3 value from the ERP, that 0.5 value from your accounting system. And it automatically puts it at the end at your order entry. And so you never have to go in and actually make a calculation. You don't have to go and do anything. All of this is a rule you set up in our system. So with the traditional way, I don't even know how many more records this is going to add. It's, just more chaos. With RPM, it's just one more record to manage. So rather than like infinity records, you're up to like 15 at this point, right? Another common pricing pitfall we see people run into is that they have competitors. You're maybe selling in a competitive market like hardware. You got Lowe's and Home Depot to compete with, and then everyone else. The traditional way, let's say that we're losing money on nail pullers, one item, right? We now have to go, we have that 32% margin, we have those discounts, we have those shipping zones, we have the New Jersey tax, all this stuff. Well, since we did all that math and just spit out a price, we have to go from the beginning and just start over, right? And so with RPM, what if instead of just having one price and a final price, what if we separate our overhead and our profit into 2 values? So we take our cost and we apply our warehouse fee, our shipping, our origin costs, right? All that overhead, the price to keep our internet on, our electricity on, all that stuff. And then we just have a separate adjustment that is our profit margin above that. Say it's 32% or 29% in this example. What if just for those items, since they're very competitive and we have a lot of competitors selling them, what if just for those items, we lower the overall margin from 29 to 25? Now we've just added one record again, rather than having to start over and do all of your pricing, right? And so how should we handle our competitors' prices? That's something that RPM can easily give you insight, whereas many companies, they ask these questions, but they don't really have an answer besides make John down in the sales department recalculate a billion transactions on a billion price sheets, right? Another one we get, can you set a minimum or maximum comparative value, Of course we can. We can set floors and ceilings. And so that way when we're adjusting these things, we don't sell for too much under or above the competition. So with this traditional way, you're starting over your whole entire pricing process. With RPM, we just add another record. So in summary, if you haven't gotten this, if you haven't made this conclusion right, for my presentation, what I'm trying to get across is that your business can run better if you deploy a strategy to be predictably and confidently profitable. That's what we want to focus on, is that when we take all of these adjustments, we assign math to them and we set hard limits on when they should or should not apply. Well, computers don't make mistakes like humans do. And so we are going to know exactly what our pricing will be. We'll know exactly how much things are costing us. We'll know exactly how much money we're making. And there's not going to be any room for human error. And so, how we can help you deploy a strategy to be predictably and confidently profitable is to separate those independent levels of pricing. Like I was mentioning, rather than just doing all that and having a sheet, what if we break it out? We can, for example, start with a cost or a list, and that's probably stored in your accounting system, and just have one list to manage. Don't have all these sources of truth of where the price might start. Apply a landed cost. All right, you have to pay a tariff to get it into the country. You have to pay the trucker guy to drop it off at your warehouse. Okay, do all that stuff. Your overhead. Okay, we have to pay salaries. We have to pay the electricity and water bill, the janitor, etc. Okay, break that out. That's not just that's not your profit yet. We're still just doing those overheads to figure out if we can even be profitable yet. Apply your quantity breaks. Have that as its own adjustment. You can look at your competitor pricing, right? And then set minimum and maximum margins based on what your competitors are doing. So you can limit by, say, what item it is, the SKU, the origin of manufacture, the category. If it's an item that is also sold by your competitors, and apply a lower margin there. And then once we do all that stuff, because that's kind of the most important thing before we get into the nitty gritty of, providing discounts and stuff, that's when we can start to say, all right, now the discounts come in, like gold, silver, bronze, those big customers, and shipping. You can add the shipping once all that fancy calculation is done. Then you add that, okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever the percentage is based on the ship zone. At this point right here, once we do all of that fancy math and we have this rule, that is when we can apply our profit margin. And this is when we are confident. This is when we have the confidence here, is because we've written all these rules. And now, because we apply that profit margin based after we add all these independent layers of pricing, we now are profitable. We know for sure that when I go and sell my screwdriver or my nail puller or whatever it is, regardless of your company and regardless of what business you do, if we do it like this, you're not going to have to manage spreadsheets. You're not going to have to do any manual work. You're just going to go to your order entry. You're going to add your line items, and the price is just going to populate based on all these rules you've set up ahead of time. Now, if your mind isn't already blown enough, just remember too, after this step, there's one more step we can go further. We could calculate commissions and rebates or royalties, anything like that, because a commission is similar to just like a markup or a discount. It's just a math adjustment that is tracked to the relevant general ledger account. And of course, there's more than that. We handle all sorts of pricing exceptions. So generally speaking, if you have some way you want to price your items in your business, the answer is yes. So whether that's buy one, get one, you want to have as many discounts, most ERPs or accounting systems only let you have one discount on the line. With us, have as many as you want, as many promotions as you want. Like I was just mentioning with the rebates, the commissions, and the royalties, we can take any adjustment and track it to a general ledger in detail. And that's optional. So, your cost markup, maybe you do or don't want to track that. Do you want to see how much you're marking up? Track it. If not, don't track it. Those rebates, all right, track 5% of this sales amount to the general ledger rebate account. And then don't actually mark it up 5% more. Just do that math, right? Things like commissions, full-blown commission engine. Many people are, we have customers today that use Rockton pricing management and they don't even utilize all this functionality. They just use the commissions just because that's all they needed. And, it has all that and more. We can also go with historical pricing. We can look at historical sales. So say if a customer spent $1 million in the last year, cool. We can do something special because of that. Because we're filtering and grouping our items by setting rules, it's also much, much easier to evaluate our pricing because I've grouped all my customers into gold discount or New Jersey 3% tax edition. I can just go and look at that filter and see what's contained rather than having to dig through a spreadsheet and figure out, oh, did it apply on this? Did it apply on this? Did it on this? It's just a lot easier to see and manage that stuff. And of course, smart exception handling. If all of your pricing is kind of like I explained before, but you have one really special customer, he was your first customer, he gets 12% off everything. You don't have to go and calculate, that one special exception. Just make that smart exception. If it's this customer, they get the extra 12%. If it's not, everyone else just falls into the default. So these are all things that if you're doing today manually, you do not have to be doing them manually. We can automate them. So here's a little visualization before I hand it back over to Amy so you can see a little bit of how our engine works. Is the magic math machine. You send us basically a customer and item and really any other data you want to send along with that should be factored into pricing, whether that's a unit of measure, the customer, the date, the quantity of items they're buying, the location, the salesperson making this sale, anything that might affect the price. We throw in our engine, and based on the rules you set up, it spits out a price. All of that happens magically behind the scenes. And then we also send over the price adjustments and their amounts. So that commission goes to the general ledger account for commissions and royalties and rebates and so on. And we see the discounts and the margins all broken up. So all in all, it is going to be the most flexible, powerful, and just overall best pricing solution you'll ever get the chance to use. So if any of this hit home for you, I would really encourage you to take a chance to reach out. I'd love to hear about how you're doing business today, how you price things, and if anything got the wheels in your head spinning, how do you think you might be able to do business better? That's always my favorite thing to do is just see, how much better could you run your business and could you be more profitable? And when that happens, it's a great thing to see. So thank you so much for taking time today to listen to my presentation. But that's all I have for you. So I'll hand it back over to Amy.
Thanks, Blake. I tell you, all those scenarios you gave started to make my head hurt, and I don't understand why anybody would want to use spreadsheets for that because I sure as heck wouldn't want to. Interesting story when you brought up the whole metal thing. And I don't know how much metal is these days, but I'm sure this happens everywhere where people go around on trash day to see who has metal out by the road that they can collect to cash in or whatever. But last week? Last week, one of our neighbors, a new driver, she just got her license, was driving up the road and hit our basketball hoop.
Oh no.
Yeah, she hit it really well, like on the ground, bent in pieces. Her car was damaged. The mom felt horrible. She's a new driver. She wasn't paying attention. I'm like, well, thank God it was that and not like a car or a tree or whatever. So my husband obviously needed to put it out to the trash. And so he broke it all up into pieces and put it out the night before. Wouldn't you know, at like 1 a.m., I hear this loud banging outside my window. And I look outside and this guy is throwing all the metal into his truck at 1 a.m. in the morning. I was like, okay, well, I guess you really like to get metal every week.
And the metal recycler he takes it to, they can use rocks and pricing management,
Yeah.
throw it on the scale, run those. That way you're not doing that manually, right? So
right.
that would have
That's
been a great
crazy.
use for it too.
Yeah,
That is
it
so
would
funny.
be. So anyway, we're getting a new basketball hoop that anyone cares to know. But yeah, so that whole metal scenario is crazy right now, and tariffs are crazy right now. I mean, just anything to make your lives easier when we have all these things thrown at us regarding our pricing. How do we keep up? How do we still make money? So important to have something in place to just help manage all of that and make it easy. So thank you so much for sharing this. It was such great insights. I do appreciate it. This is definitely buzzworthy information. Anybody that's dealing with pricing needs to take a look at this and watch this recording in if you happen to miss it this month. So I truly appreciate you, Blake, being here for the
Yeah,
July
thank you.
What's
Appreciate
the
the
Buzz?
opportunity.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for joining us this month. So hopefully I will see you next month as well, and have a great day.